Hi, folks, and welcome to She's All Talk Live. Now, I'm so happy tonight because Jesus Christ, I've had you all waiting for a guest for ages, and tonight I have a guest. And I am delighted, absolutely delighted that this girl is my first guest. And as you could see last week, I posted up a post about a girl called Jessica Wade, and she was after being on the Tommy Tiernan show. And me, like everybody else, was blown away at her story, her bravery, her just like complete honesty about her life. And the minute I seen her, I was like Googling her name. I was like, where can I get her? And I got her. I got her on Instagram, and I said, look, will you be my guest? And she was delighted. Like, she said, yeah, I'd love to. And since then, apparently her social medias have blown up. Like, everybody has gotten in contact with her. So many people, I think so many people could relate to her story, and so many people were, like I said, blown away by her honesty. And it's something that is just not spoken about. And that's what I couldn't believe. Like, I'm like, just so many people could relate to this. And yet it's not spoken about, especially with women, like. So I am going to bring her on, and I'm so delighted. I really can't. I'm like all over the place all day. So, Jessica,
How are you?
Wade, welcome to my show. Oh my God. Like,
Thanks so much.
I just can't believe how it's even blown up for you in the last week. Like, everybody reaching out to you, and just tell me about this week, basically.
Yeah.
Since you went on that show, tell me about your phone and what has happened.
It's been crazy. Obviously the show went live on the Saturday night, and then like it was the Sunday was kind of normal, a normal day. But I suppose in everyone's world it was quite normal. But for me, reflecting back on the show, because I had to watch myself that night, and then the next day I watched it again, and I was like, I got real emotional, and I start getting real upset, and I cried a little. Now they weren't out of sadness; it was more out of gratitude. It was
Yeah.
more out of absolute like. I'm so delighted that I done that, because my phone didn't stop. Like my phone actually died. I had to run over to the square and get a new battery. That's how much my phone blew up.
Oh my
Um,
God.
my Instagram went through though, just through it, just crazy, and all the messages coming in, and I suppose that was that day. Monday, then I went into work, and there was emails coming through, and by Tuesday, I had the governor that I spoke about on the Tommy Tiernan show. She reached out to me in an email. Now, obviously, I'd asked her for permission to mention her name on the
Okay.
show.
Okay.
So there's a new governor up in the prison there in the Doka Centre, and he's a male officer. Well, he's a male governor. So basically, she wants to introduce me now to him. So to go into the women's. Now I have been doing that, you know what I mean? But there's so much that I want to do up there in that prison. So they've reached out to me. So there's an invitation to meet him on a personal. So I'm delighted with that.
It's
And
brilliant.
then yeah, the ironic thing was then I got a message, an email off this priest that was a parish. He was in the parish years ago in the 90s or something like that. And he was in a different church altogether. And I started laughing because when I read it, it was like he asked me to go to his church and speak on Good Friday.
Oh, wow.
Like he was asking me, would I be interested in doing something like that? And I was like, that's a little bit mad, but look at no, I said, look, the message is good. I'll deliver something decent anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll go over.
That's a big ask to go to church, isn't it? Like, in
Yeah,
fairness. And
yeah,
it's fabulous though, because like
yeah,
you were talking about your faith, and how big it was a part of your recovery, you
yeah.
know, and like how do you feel your faith has changed your life, regardless, like throwing your recovery aside, how do you feel like because of your faith in
Yeah.
general, how it's changed your life?
Oh, it's transformed my life. I mean, without me faith, I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Mm.
I went into treatment in 2008, And the treatment centre that I went into was a Christian recovery treatment centre. And I chose that treatment centre simply because it was the only centre that would have took me in on the drugs that I was currently on. You know, because I was on like 90 mils of methadone. I was on every tablet I could get my hands on. I was smoking any gear I could get my hands on, coke and ecstasy. Like, that was just my life. And there was no treatment centre that criteria. They wouldn't have put their hands on me. They would have wanted you to be on a certain amount before you went in. So I started.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I think it's something probably a lot of people don't know, that you have to be kind of nearly semi-clean in order to go into a treatment centre. I would thought it was the other way around, really. You have to be in a bad way.
Yeah, and that's not the case, and things have definitely changed, you know, over the years, that it's very strict. But back then, for me, there was a church, and it was called Victory Outreach, and my cousin had gone to it, and she was the life of me life. It was like she had changed and transformed her life, you know, and I seen a difference in her in the Christian world, you know. So that's where she went. So I went there then, and I stayed with them for 6 months, and I after the 6 months, and I was clean, but I hadn't really changed. As I say, I got clean. I just didn't know a lot about myself. Do you know what I mean? So I went to a different treatment centre called Teen Challenge. It was Tig Lynn, and that was another Christian centre. And I went in there, and I just studied the Word of God. It was Bible college, and it totally transformed my mind. It changed my way of thinking. The principles and the values becoming a Christian is exactly what I needed. You know, it was like a structure. It was like, you know, it just helped me to see my life and where it was going, what to do, what not to do. And it was just those things. It was simple, but to anyone else, it would have been crazy. But to me, it's exactly what I needed, you know?
Yeah, you kind of have to have something to, I suppose, something to kind of not even cling on to, because that's the wrong word, isn't it? Like, it's something to, I don't even have a word to describe it, because it did you so good. Like, like you said, it's transformed you, and it was almost like a hand to pull you out, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, 100% it was. I mean, in the schooling that I got when I was in the treatment centre, there was one of the classes, and it was called Attitudes and Behaviours, right? Okay. So when you start learning about your attitudes and your behaviours, all of a sudden you're seeing yourself with your attitude, you're seeing yourself with your behaviour, you know, like the way you fold your arms, or the way you talk to someone, you point to them and all that, you know, or the way you'd apologise to someone. You know, if you were apologising to someone, you'd always use, well, if I didn't say that, or but. You know what I mean? So you had to change your language, instead of going ifs and all the buts, and say, actually, I was wrong there, and taking responsibility. So it just changed you on that level, that you were taking responsibility and that you were choosing to do it the right way instead of doing it your own way. Do you know what I mean? Because Jessica's way would have been still out using and doing whatever. Whereas, you know, when I went into that treatment centre, you know, just the love I felt from people transformed me as well. You know, the goodness of people and the kindness of people, just wanting you, rooting for you to stay, continue on the journey, and just keep going, you know.
It's lovely, it really is. And like, you know, it's kind of like what you're like now to other people, you know. Like you said, it's like full 360. It's like it's come back around, you know. And you were saying, like, you know, you help people every day, and you kind of show them, you know, your heart is so big, you go out and help everybody. That's exactly what you're doing, what people did to you back then. You know, you're kind of you're putting your hand out for people, and that's lovely. Like, it really is. And tell me a little bit about, like, you know, your everyday and what you do for others.
Right. Well, I suppose my role at the moment is, on a professional level, is evening service manager. So I work for Tig Lynn. It's a treatment centre for men and women, and the men's centre and the women's centre are in, you know, they're in Wicklow and they're in Britis Bay, but I'm based in the community. So anyone that would come into us for teas and coffees, I would just link in with them, give them a little bit of food, check in, how are you doing? Are you ever interested in going into treatment? And start speaking recovery to them, you know. So you're just really giving an invitation of like, you know, recovery is possible and you can do that. And they're like straight off the bat, going back to what I said, the amount of drugs that I was taking, they're like, oh, no, that'd be way too much. I wouldn't be able to go in, you know, that would stop me. And I'm going, hang on, I was on that.
Look at
I
me.
took that, you know. So then it's like their mind is blown, their little light bulb is going on because they're looking at me and they're going, hang on, look at her teeth. You know, I don't mean that just laughing, but you know,
exactly.
Like, who's she? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and then you get this, like, they get the light bulb moment of like, I'll introduce them to ways and bring them in and do a care plan with them and sit with them, and urine analysis then would be weekly, and then we'd introduce drug diaries to them. So drug diaries for somebody is that they would document Monday, Tuesday, right to Sunday, the drugs that they're taking, right? And then you break it down to how much you spent, the when, the where, the with, and the why, right? So, I mean, if you're saying the when, the where, the with, and the why, you're going to know where the problems are happening and you're going to see it for what it is. And that's going to start changing you as an individual, because you're saying, every time I go to the post office, every time I bump into Bobby, every time, do you know what I mean? So it's all those things. So then we look at it and then we say, okay, so how can we change that piece? You know, I had this guy say to me, we got his money transferred from the post office into the bank. And then, like, he used to, like, get his mom to go down and collect his money so that he wouldn't be around the post office, so that he wasn't putting himself at risk or any triggers or anything. So we would just, I suppose, be so creative for our clients so that we can help them. Do you know what I mean?
See your clients to see, like you said, what they spent, where they were, to see that in black and white at the end of the week and go, I spent this much, I took this much. Like, I'm assuming it kind of hits home with them and go, hell, like, this is just unbelievable. And
it is,
you know, following on, that's incredible.
Well, for the first week, you never see a reduction. For the first week, you hold it and you say to them, okay, now the challenge is getting real. By the next week, you're looking to make some kind of reduction in your life and reduce, because you're aiming towards treatment. Do you know what I mean? But the criteria is out there with treatment centres at the moment. I could harp on about this all day long, because it's only because I work in the services and I know the criteria to get into Coolmine. I know the criteria to get into Tickling because I work for them. You know, they want you to be drug-free going into some of the services out there. And that's for people. And that's why they're still lost and they're still bound in addiction. You know, so it's like, if they can see a care plan where they're documenting their drug diaries, you link them into a day program, community links or something like that in that community. Ballyfermot is there, get them some counselling. There's loads of services out there that you can start linking them in wherever their catchment area is from. And just keep the ball rolling. You know, there's NA recovery meetings out there, there's AA, there's CA, they're all the A's, do you know what I mean? But as I say, they're there. I'm all about, you know, I'm a Christian, I go to church, I'm very much into the 12 steps. You know, the 4th step does tell us to admit that we are powerless over our addiction, you know, and for someone to get to that place and say that, they're the ones that are in our service. They're the ones that will come in and say, I can't do this anymore. You know, so that in that sense, it's like that's the beginning for them.
Yeah. I bet you a lot of them, but like you said earlier, a lot of them think, they look at you and when you say, look at me, they cannot believe like you're there and you're a testament to what you're saying. And they're probably like, hardly, no. You know, like people have a certain preconceived conception of what a drug addict post, you know, like recovery looks like, and that's not always true. Like, you know, it's something that people's kind of perceptions need to change.
And you see, that's it. I mean, the hard part is that there's not very many people that are bold enough to step up and say, you know, I was an addict. I just work in a service that the service I work for, it's a treatment centre that I came through. Do you know what I mean? So I'm comfortable enough to turn around and say, You know, no, I couldn't do that in other services. Do you know what I mean? On anonymity and all those little bits, but I'm comfortable enough to do it where I work.
Right.
So I suppose, you know, you do have to be mindful. There is some people that are out there working in the services and they don't share their story, and you would never know. Do you know what I mean? But I just feel if you need to be relatable to someone, you need to reach in, and it has to be normalized. If you don't normalize it, it's not going to, they're not going to, you're not going to build up that rapport with them, that relationship, and
True. Yeah,
communicate with them. Do you
definitely.
know what I mean? Because, you know,
Yeah. It's mad. I've so many things I want to ask you, and now I'm like all day, I'm like, oh my God, I need to ask her this. Another thing that when I saw you that struck me about your interview with Tommy was when you said about the time you were in court and your dad said, "Run." And I'm sure so many people
yeah,
has mentioned your dad to you,
yeah,
because I know my dad would have said the exact same thing. And I know there's so many dads out there would say the same,
yeah,
you know. And I love the fact that you had, I'd say balls, which are because it is. You had the balls to say, no, this is what my dad said to me. And he actually
yeah,
said, run for your life. You
yeah,
know, and I'm sure your dad is looking, going, yeah, like I did, you
yeah,
know. You know,
yeah.
I'm sure and I'm sure if he had it all over again, he would probably still say the same.
Oh, 100%. There'll be no doubt about it. Like, you know, I suppose looking at it, it's like, you know, me with my own children, like if that was me going to court with one of mine, I know I'd say the same. You know, the horror stories that you hear about prison and all those little bits, could imagine what was going on in his head, you know. You know, it is ironic that, you know, he said it, you know, but he thought it was the
Yeah.
best thing for me to run,
I
you
know,
know.
I know. It was that kind of short-term thing,
Yeah,
wasn't it? It was literally say what you see in front of you,
yeah,
run. And I
yeah,
know you said that obviously, you know, it didn't help and you ended up back and you went through the prison system. But like it's so hard that the only kind of thing for you back then was prison.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
there was nothing to say, right? Like maybe no, maybe she doesn't need prison. Maybe we'll just go down the rehab
yeah,
route. You know,
yeah,
she's only a young girl. Like I just feel that why is prison always the answer? Now I know
yeah,
obviously because of it's just there could have been something more.
yeah. And you see, the truth behind that is the scary part. I mean, for me, it was over 20 years ago, you know, and I know things have changed now
Yeah.
in the law and in the prison systems, and probation and all is involved, you know, the drug courts and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
thank God for them, because it does give people a chance. But for us 20 odd years ago, there was no chances. It was prison. You
I
know,
know.
they didn't look at the quantity of drugs that, you know, I mean, anybody that's listening and that anyone that knows of drugs or has ever known of anything about drugs, like what I was caught with was an eighth of heroin. It was
Okay.
250 pounds worth of
Right.
drugs. It wasn't much when
Yeah.
you look at the grand scheme of things for the
Yeah.
amount of years they gave me. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, you know, that they actually wouldn't deal with it in the district court. But when you look at the interventions on people's lives, like you're saying about the, you know, about the courts, that no one was even like an officer, like a probation officer in the courts on that day 20 years ago that would have said, well, Your Honour, actually, this would be better for her. Believe you me, when I stood up in front of that Judge Gillian Hussey that day, because I remember it was in the papers, I pleaded for me life. So when she sent me forward for trial, I stood before her and my words were, Your Honour, please, I'm a mother of two.
Mm.
And it wasn't taken into consideration. That was put up in the paper. That yet there was someone there from the paper to do that and, you know,
There
write about
wasn't
that.
somebody
But there
supporting
wasn't
you
some,
there.
yeah, there was no one there to support me and say, well, look, Your Honour, you know, let's hear her out, let's get some clean urines off her, or let's do these little pieces to support. That just wasn't available way back then, you know. And it's like, even for me, it was like, you know, going back to being on like methadone prescribed, I started on a clinic in the Ashland Clinic going up there, and I started on this new program with them. It was in the afternoon, 5:30 in the day was the only time they give you your methadone. So that meant
a long day, like
it was a long day. It was a long day because there was a lot of drugs taken before I went up because I'd be dying sick, you know. And I remember, like, even starting with that clinic, I was on like 55 mils of five. That's what they started me on. By the time I left that clinic, I was on 90 mils of five, right?
Jesus.
And the years I was on that clinic was 12 years. So that's what I'm saying. So the interventions were not there for us.
So
in
it
fact,
does keep you as like addicted to the methadone as opposed to the other stuff. That's not right.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. When we talk about interventions, they weren't there. So there was no one saying, you know, here's Jessica into the clinic, or here's Mary in, or here's Bobby into the clinic. Okay, let's have a chat with them and let's see where their goals are. What are they reaching towards? Are they going to reduce? Are they looking for support? Do they want counseling? No, we didn't get that. So we were taken in to do where urines. If our urines were dirty, is what they done is they put us back onto dailies. Now, I just thank God at that time for me, I was clean on me methadone and I was getting a prescription and I was transferred to a GP, which meant I was getting me bottle every week. And that was being clean. Do you know what I mean? And that was just living a normal life and going to work and doing your thing. But again, it was 12 years. And, you know, you had this stigma around methadone and it said, like, you know, methadone gets into your bones. And I would have started on methadone, which was Phyceptone. Back in the day, it was brown Phy. And then they changed it to green. So they, you know, they took all the sugar out of it and all this, you know, mad stuff. You had to go through this transformation that they were doing with the methadone. Like, honest to God, the stuff. But in saying all of that, like, you know, for me, it was like to go into treatment, people would have said to come off methadone, it goes into your bones. And like, you know, the withdrawals are going to be horrific. The fear around all of that would stop anyone from moving forward. So like I thank God for like the likes of Victory Outreach when it was available to us to be able to, and it's not here now at the moment, but it is in the UK. But like they just took you as you were, but you had to go in and do your rattle, you know. So that's just the way it was. So, and like I to be honest, I thank God today for me rattle because it was horrific.
Oh my God.
It was.
It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And it's another world that people just don't see. Like, but I know when we go back, like, you know, when you think of people and how they get onto drugs and how they start on drugs, you know, we spoke about it. It's always like normally a trauma in life. But there's another thing that isn't spoken about is when you start and you become of age where you start going out nightclubbing and, you know, enjoying yourself and taking in and doing coke at the weekend. Like that has been a part of almost everybody's kind of growing up, part of growing up, with a fair few, obviously not, but you know, the majority of people who's grown up in Dublin would have gone down that road, and many, I know a chap wrote up, a lot of people didn't make it to the after party, but many people kind of went on from there, and lots of people have, and it's not spoken about. And I think you speaking about it has opened up loads of doors for conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you know, going back to the days when the rave scene was available for us all to just like, I mean, I was 16 when I went dancing. You know, 16 years of age. I mean, look at one of your kids and what age one of your kids are. That was me going into a rave. You know, with all my mates, and it was like the best thing in the world to do back then. You know, it was the biggest escape from us all. We grew up where, you know, poverty was real. You know, it was very real. And it was like, you know, if you didn't stay in school, what chances had you got? You know, I left school when I was 16.
Yeah, I same here. Yeah, I did too.
You know, crazy.
It was like, yeah, it was, you know, and a lot of people would have gotten a job. Like I remember having my first job was an out cleaning job, like, and I was only for a couple of hours, and then I ended up working in bloody Kymar Cafe, you know, and then it was just you do your little job, and then you go out the weekend and go to a nightclub, like, you know, when I say a weekend, like you start on Friday and end on a Sunday night. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
That's it. Yeah. That's if you came home.
probably Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah.
But and that's what it was. And then of course there were so many people then that just, it just ended up, people enjoyed it so much that they just were obviously enjoying it. Was an escapism from
Yeah,
life,
big time.
because like you said, it was poverty, like very little for us to do outside of
Nothing.
the weekend, you
Yeah.
know. And especially if you weren't going to school and you didn't get on in school, and that was it, really. That was the highlight of your life.
Yeah. And I think, people would often say to me, like, Jess, you've a really lovely family, and, how did things go crazy for you? Like, what was it all about? For me personally, it was my social setting that got me into trouble, Now, they were my own choices, and I hold my hands up big time for that. But for me, like, we lived in Ballymun, and I moved from Ballymun when I was 7 years of age to Ballyfermot. My granddad had passed away, and we moved from a 3-bedroom beautiful house to Ballyfermot. And anyone that knows Ballyfermot, we moved to a 2-bedroom house, and it was me nanny's house, and we were moving in with my nanny.
Yeah,
tiny, like, and I had my own room, and it was like the princess's room. My brother was in the room next door. Like, we were so separate to our rooms, and we had to then be in the same room together. And my mum and dad petitioned off a room for us, and we moved up to Ballier. And I'll never forget it, because I had made me Holy Communion when I was in Ballymun.
Okay.
But when I moved to Ballyfermot, I'd missed time. So I was put back a year in the school in Ballyfermot in St. Rayfields. And I was put back. So the year I was put back to was the year that they were all making that communion. And I'd already made mine. So for me, as a little girl in me little mind, I'm like, why can't I just put me communion dress on and go around to get a few pound again? Like, that was just me head. But no, you can't do that. You stay over there. And all them words came into me mind, and kind of, I felt different. I felt like excluded. I felt like, and the rebellion in me started from that moment, because I remember going home and saying to me, Ma, I can't wear me communion dress. And she chased me up the stairs and she said, get that on you now and go out and do what you want. You know what I mean? But in that, like, I was a child, I was a kid, I didn't understand what was going on, and and then moving into Ballyfermot, different people, different cultures, different social setting, and you're trying to blend back in.
New big school for you as well, that you didn't know anybody in it, and that would have been hard. And like you said, it wasn't even, like we spoke about, it goes back to a trauma in your life. A lot of traumas can be really bad traumas for people who end up going that road, but yours was, it wasn't necessarily in other people's eyes a bad thing, but to you, it just turned your world around, really, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, because, like, it did. I mean, you're trying to make friends again, and you're feeling so, like, alone in, living in the likes of Ballyfermot. Yeah, you had your family, but you were a kid. You just didn't understand what was going on. Do you know what I mean? So far through school, I was always put in the slow learners class. I was always put in a class. I was actually in a class, which is actually crazy when I think about it. They had one class, right? And it was for 4th years, 5th years, and 6th years. And I was the 4th year. Now, if you look at that,
it's weird, isn't it?
So yeah, that's how it began for me, my social set. And I was hanging around with all the wrong age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were all going, they were all smoking, as you go to school, because they were 6th year. I was a 4th year. So it was like, and it was like, that's the stigma that was on you. It was like, no, you're in the slow class.
I was put into the slow, and it was always called a slow class. I remember being taken just because I couldn't concentrate, and I was away with the bleeding berries. And I remember being thrown into a class, and then all of a sudden, my other classmates got wind. I was in a different class, and they said, Leslie's gone to the slow class, and forever I was known as being in a slow class.
Yeah.
And it was terrible, really.
Yeah. And that's what they done to us. I mean, God loved them, but Yeah, so that, I mean, from that, leaving school at what, 15, 16, when I left school, I
Yeah.
remember I got a job in a chocolate factory and I was too young. And I borrowed my friend's birth certificate, and me name became Karen. So I was Karen for a while. I used to have to bring her down to check every week for her to change it for me.
Yeah, that is gas. So
Yeah.
then moving forward, then right. So until you found yourself, then you're in court, and because the whole kind of going over the whole drug thing, it was what it was.
Yeah.
And then you had your two beautiful children, and then you ended up stuck in prison, and then kind of life, I suppose your recovery started there, didn't it?
It did start. I mean, I got in the prison, I got somewhat clean in regards to like heroin use. I mean, in the prison, I think I always smoked hash now, I mean, that was
That
just
the only thing to just, yeah, it was the thing, wasn't it? Just to keep
it
it
was
going.
I don't know how we got away with it, the bleeding smell of the stuff.
Thinking.
But yeah, I did get clean in a sense. Like I stayed stable on me methadone, but and that was like, as I say, I got 3 years and a 13-month review. But leaving that prison was the most scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life, because stepping away from being told when to eat, what to do, where to go, all those little bits, and like the freedom is coming. But for me, when I left that prison, I'll never forget that day walking out with me bag, and I was on the North Circular Road, and I'm standing at the road, and the cars are going by, and they were going by from at a huge pace, really fast. The world was just like that. And I was like, what's going on? It was too fast for me, And I remember thinking, where am I going? What am I doing? There was nothing in place, and there's another intervention that's needed also when we talk about
Still
prison.
like that, Jessica.
Yeah.
Is it still kind of, has it remained unchanged? Like,
No, there is change after happening, and the prison do have a step down house, but you have to be working towards that when you're in the prison.
yeah,
And then, that's the plan going forward. But years ago when I left, that wasn't there
yeah.
for me.
You're
Do you know
just,
what I mean?
are you just released with your bag, and
Oh yeah.
have a follow-up address, or did you know where you were going and that was it? Like,
I wouldn't have gone out if I didn't have an address, because I was out on TR, so I was on temporary release. So I would have had me ma's address to say, yeah, I'm going there. Do you know what I mean? So they would have had me going down to Ballyfermot Garda station to sign on, because that was your local attachment. You know what I mean? But like that again, they were the things that I didn't continue to do, was sign on in the Garda station once a week, and then sign on in the prison. Then I just stopped doing that, which if I missed 1 week, I neither went back up to sign on. I knew they were going to take me back in because I breached, you know what I mean? So the reality of it was, you just kind of were up in the head about it, and you were going, right, now I need to go again, and I need to run again. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's just what happened. It was like, from that again, sure, I ended up, going to London again, and just getting lost in it again, So
very hard.
yeah, circle of life when you're on drugs. It's just like, and you're running from yourself, So it's like, it's all I can say is thank God for recovery, thank God that the second chance was given, and the opportunity to go into a recovery home where you could just get clean and get yourself right and slow your mind down. But then again, there's another side of that you have to learn to slow your mind down, and that wasn't easy, because anyone that takes drugs, their mind is just at a faster pace. You're
Yeah.
just, you're on that, as I say, that merry-go-round, and it's like learning how to slow the mind is one tool that I have learned to do. And I'm not saying I've mastered it, but I will say I
Takes
have.
time,
Yeah,
has it?
it takes its time, it takes its time, but when it comes.
Sorry, how long between how long between when you got out till you finally found where you said, right, this is me now. This is me. I'm in recovery now. And like, because I'm sure that time, how long it would have been, it probably felt like forever for you.
Yeah. I think I would have been. It was about 2000. I was in recovery in 2008. And I'd say by 2009, I had reservations of like, I can leave at any time and I can go and I can just go back to my life, without using. That wasn't realistic because going back into my environment hadn't changed. Nothing had changed about, certain elements of my environment, my social setting. And, me realizing that I actually had to not only change myself, but I had to change the company that I kept,
Yeah.
the people, all those things, So you had to really, really like either want it or not. And for me, I think the only thing I could have done for myself, even when I say then, it was just like completely surrender over me will, like literally, and be like, right, this is the new me.
Yeah.
And I thank God for the program that I went into because it did really help me because it was Bible college. It was, we done Bible studies every day, and it kind of brought new and positive things in so that the old is gone, the new has come, and you were able to focus on the new piece of who you are. And I think as well, when for me it was just accepting and loving myself again and seeing this new version of who I was and fully enjoying who Jessica really, really is, and it being more accepting of who I was. And really, forgiveness was a powerful word for me. I had to forgive myself, like I had to, when I look back on my life and the things that I done for drugs and people, everything I touched, I destroyed, and I had to look at myself in the mirror. And I really, that days in treatment where I cried so much, and I got so vulnerable. But really, I thank God for it all because it has transformed me into who I am today, because I had to break down in order to build myself back up to this new person, So I had to go to those levels of truly, truly surrendering myself, getting completely vulnerable. Like I was 6 months in treatment, no, 7 months in treatment, and I'll never forget this day. We got up and we were on the program in the treatment center, and they had a scheduling to be on what they were telling you to do. And we were sitting in the room, and at that you had to read your Bible, And I'm sitting there and I got all these pains in my chest, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm taking a heart attack. I'm 6-7 months clean now and I'm going to die. There's me head. That's how nuts me head.
All the hard work.
EastEnders happening all over me head, right? And with that, I know the drama. So like that, they rushed me off down to the hospital, right? Because I couldn't breathe. I was holding my chest. Went into the hospital. It was down in Kildare, Naas General. Rushed me in, and they put all the bits on me. And you need to calm down. And you're going to take a heart attack, right? The doctor came in to me. Nori said to me, "You're okay."
Yeah.
He said, "That pain is real, but it's all emotion. Now, I want you to go back to the treatment center," he said, "and I want you to cry her out."
Okay.
So it was like he was telling me, because for me, before the emotions came, I didn't know how to release all of that. I didn't know how to let go. You were afraid to get vulnerable. You were afraid to break down because you were afraid you were never going to get back up, and you were afraid that you'd never get, you'd never stop crying. And I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of emotions. So it was time to I remember going back, and you know what he gave me? A prescription of paracetamol, because he said to me, the pain's real.
Yeah, it is actual real pain.
It's real pain, but I can't give you anything else. So here's some paracetamol, And I went back to the treatment center, and I'd still got the pains in my chest, but I kind of knew then this is where the rubber hits the road. It's like now I need to stop holding all this stuff in and start to talk about it, and then I start getting real. So when you said that moment, what changed for you? I wasn't getting away from the pain. It was like God had me where he wanted me to deal with me so that I could go through me stuff, and he took me to the hospital even because I was giving myself nearly a heart attack. Do you know what I mean?
And I think you own and everything has been a big release to you.
Oh, massive. That was it. Yeah.
It makes so much sense, though, really, when you think of it. Like, I mean, just getting it all out is, I like they say, you know, have a good cry. But I mean, just to be able to do that, I'd say it was unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. It was hard. It was.
With the paracetamol. No, that's
No, but I
unreal.
mean, I mean, like, and I hear what you're saying, but like for me, it's like I had to learn to sit with myself and just be with me and my feelings, and that's part of your journey in recovery is being fully accepting of, like, you know, and I hate to say it, but your stuff, you know, your emotions, your hurts, your pains, and all the stuff you've just gone through in your life, you know, and it's so rewarding to be able to come through it and be comfortable in your own skin. And you know, I'm very emotional, like, you know, I mean, if you cried, I'd cry. That's just the way I am. But you know,
Yeah,
and like, I think that's why the clients love me so much, is because when they're crying, I just hug them and I cry with them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and they're like, "Ah, she's cried as well," and I'm like, "No, it's okay." Do you know what I mean?
now I got her crying. But
Yeah.
there's another thing on the interview you were talking about. We were talking about the drug dealers, and it's funny how, again, the perception of people who sell drugs, we think, oh God, they're minted, you know, they're driving flashy cars, and like you remember you saying, they are just selling the bag to buy a bag. Like the majority of them are all in the same kind of situation, you know, they're just stuck. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's an awful lot of things out there where people go, fucking drug dealers and this, that, and the other. But a lot of them as well, God love most of them who
Yeah.
want to get off drugs. But again,
Yeah.
like you said, they're selling the bag to buy the bag because they need, you know what I mean? That's something
Yeah.
else I've spoken about.
And I think, like, where I walk, that's very true. You know, I mean, I don't definitely don't come across the glamorous drug dealers. Not where I walk. They wouldn't come near us. You know, they've no need to. You
No.
know, but it's like our service is definitely there to reach people like that. And I'm very proud that we have a service that doesn't, you know, look at the person and go, well, no, 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 we're not going to accept you in, but we'll accept you in. I mean,
Mm,
that's not what we do. Do you know what I mean? Our doors are open. Now, we won't tolerate drug dealing. I'm
of
not
course,
saying
yeah,
that. You
yeah,
know, I mean, dear God, no, absolutely not. Like, we would, you know, I mean, we have a policy and we would absolutely be giving them warnings. You know, they're on
mm,
camera anyway, and we'd always remind them, look, you're being watched, the Garda station. So, but I will say they're very respectful to us when they come into us. You know, it's like, but yeah, they're just different types of people out there, and the ones that we're reaching are the ones that need it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
definitely. And I think it's great to kind of open up that conversation that the majority or whatever, like they are struggling
yeah,
as well to get
yeah.
help. And
Well,
sorry,
the
go ahead.
worst, your grand, the worst part of it, I suppose, is that, you know, I mean, COVID has completely destroyed people in a sense of, you know, drug using with their mental health and all.
Yeah,
And you know, like, I'm walking down in that service now 2 years. Well, 2 years in June.
mm,
But I was working in another service, low threshold service as well. But when COVID hit, it took everything important away from people. Now, I'm going to speak personally about myself.
yeah,
You know,
that's
like,
what I wanted
yeah,
to ask you about,
yeah,
because like you, and how did you deal with it as well
yeah.
as not being able to be out there for other people?
Well, you see, our service extended its service during the COVID. So we didn't take them in because we couldn't, because we were in level 5. So we extended and we opened our service up to people and we just served them out meals. And
Mm,
we tried to engage with them as much as we could through plastic and all of that, you know,
yeah,
COVID protection. But, you know, the sad part about all that is that people just definitely withdrew. And the ones that were trying to get clean relapsed and relapsed and relapsed, you know, because
so sad.
no one knew when they were coming out with this lockdown, you know, when they were dealing with their own stuff. The hard part about, I mean, for me on a personal level was one, you know, church on a Sunday for me stopped. You
God.
know, recovery meetings stopped, you in NAAA, all these pieces stopped for people, and then they created these Zooms, and we were all zoomed into this new world of, like, you know, everyone is up here and there, and who's that, and then people are blocking, not showing themselves, and they're like, this is not real. There's no
No,
connection. connection. There's no relationship here. People, it's like, you know, you can be fake and just say, oh yeah, how are you doing today? Yeah, grand. But really, body language is always key. Do you know what I mean? And for me, it was just like, I was made redundant from one job, and I went into another job for 6 weeks, and then I went to this job. So I was very busy during COVID. I didn't have a minute to even think. I was learning new jobs, new procedures, new policies, you know, implementing this, doing that. So I was quite busy. Now that we're coming out of this lockdown, I'm like, I feel like I've been in a trance. I feel like I'm just coming, and I'm like, you know, one of those aliens that has just stepped out into the world, because now that, they're releasing off their masks, and you're like, whoa, 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 don't stand near me. Do you know what I mean? Because you're being like, so careful. You're like, no, don't sit beside. And then you're getting on the Lewis now, and everyone's cramming in, and you feel like, oh, this is too much. You know, like I feel I managed so well during the COVID, even though my churches stopped. You know, and you know, but for me on a personal level, like how I got through COVID, and I mean this with my hand on my heart. I don't say this, I say this real. I got so close to my faith in this COVID than I've ever done in my life. And I've been reading my Bible 13 years. But I got so close to God in this because I couldn't do it on my own strength. I need them every day. Me prayer, me meditation, those pieces just became part of it for me. It was so important. Like coming home from work on a Friday, long day, you know, I was coming in, lighting a candle, dimming the lights, and I was just having my personal reflection with the Lord every Friday. It was like my little day because I needed it. I just, telling you now, I just would come in, I'd play me worship music, and it's just, it was a detachment for me to just release myself away from myself and say, Lord, you know what, you're good, you're getting me through this day, you got me through this week, that was a tough week. And, you know, people would say, Jess, like, you know, you talk to God like you talk to me, and I go, yeah, I know, because he's real. He's real to me. He's my friend, he's all of those things. And not everyone understands that, but 100% for me, it's my truth, and it's how
it's gotten to where you are, Jessica, today. Like,
that's
I don't think if you haven't had that, you probably it'd be a different story. Like, you know.
No, hugely. I do experience that I had in that church in 2008 was a complete. Oh my God, like, you know, I don't say it lightly. I say it like it was the most beautiful experience I ever had. Because again, you know, I went in there to take me life. I went in there to, like, I had planned to take me life, and I knew exactly how I was going to do it. I had the drugs. I had it all cooked up. It was ready. It was in the syringe. It was ready to be just put in, and that was going to be the end of it, you know. And it's like that moment for me, it was just like, that was God. That was like that lady. She was an angel. She was an angel. You know, I'd love to see her now and just thank her, you know. You know, she was definitely.
Find her. We have to find her. And I remember listening to that going, Jesus, she said, light a candle for yourself. And you know what? I think there's a lot of people out there maybe need to start lighting candles for themselves. Because, you know, in life, we're all very busy running around after our kids and, you know, praying for our kids and looking out for them. And no matter what the circumstances is, but there are times where we just need to step back and kind of look at ourselves, isn't there?
Well, do you know the way when you said to me, you know, what has happened since the show and people reaching out to me, like when I say my phone blew up, I had these beautiful messages from people, and old neighbors and old friends came out of the woodwork sending me messages. And there was one message now, and I did cry when I read it, because this person, you know, is very close to my heart, and God loving me, said he's a young lad, you know, and he said to me, Jessica, I just want you to know that when I watched you on Tommy Tiernan, he said, I cried. And I just replied back, why? What made you cry? And he says, because you see the church that you went into. He said, I was at the having an argument, he said, with me missus. and I was back using, and she wasn't tolerating it, and she told me to go. And I walked down by the church, and the church doors were open. And he says, Jess, they're never open.
They're never open, because I went to school and they were all blocked.
Yeah, right.
Around them. Yeah.
So he said they were open, and he went in, right? And he sat there, and he lit a candle, and he cried, and he cried, and he cried. He just sat there. He said, is what he got from that was just a personal conviction about what he was doing in his own life wasn't working. And he sat in that church, and he said there was a week after that he went into treatment. You know, I mean, and then and that's what I'm saying. There's the power of, sitting with yourself, being with yourself, as you say, running around with the kids, taking that moment and going, checking in. How are you?
Checking in.
Just checking in. I mean, it's so important. I do it all the time. I'm called the biggest check-in, honest to God. that's my name.
That's brilliant. I think we should all do it. I think we should all have a check-in hour at certain times of the week and just in on yourself, because life is just, I think life is going, remember you said when you feel like when you got out of prison, the world's going very fast. I feel since kind of COVID and everything is open back up, I think it's going real fast again. I'm really struggling this week. I'm struggling this week because we were kind of off the radar with COVID 2 weeks ago in our house. And now all the kids are going back doing their extra kind of curricular things after school. And I haven't got a minute to myself. And this week I'm like, Jesus Christ, I have to slow down. I can't, this is too fast for me. And it does, even stuff like that. I think your mental health and everything moving too quick. Yeah. We're not made for stuff moving.
We're not made for it. No, we're not made for it. I mean, I'm very much and I think prison helped me in a way where, I could come home on a Friday and I go jogging and stuff in the mornings and stuff. And that can be my day done. And I do my bit of cleaning and I get me food delivered to me. So I don't cook. And that's the blessing in my life. I'm on this healthy eating buzz. And I've made really good choices for myself in regards to my mind. When COVID hit, you couldn't go to the shops. I was like, I'm not going anyway. I'm ordering me food. It comes. I just heat it in the microwave. And it's just, and then there's no cleaning up after. So it's not an hours of cooking and cleaning for me. It's just in the microwave. And it's the most wonderful thing ever. And as I say, I would recommend anyone do it. It's €65. I'll jump on the link.
Give them a plug, definitely.
Jump on the link on Instagram. I'll tell you.
I'll have all the kids on it and everything. There'll be no more cooking.
But it is the blessing I've given myself just to kind of slow down. I promised myself for 2022. Well, 2021 I started this, so going into 2022 I've continued, and I promised myself that I'm going to read more. Which this is one of my most beautiful books besides my Bible. But this one is Healing is the New High. So I was down my head for many, many years. This one is a really good read. And like that, I don't pick the book up to read at all. I'll pick her up to read 2 or 3 pages, and I'll do that on it every night. But I give myself full permission to just be. Telly hasn't been on all day. Alexa's my friend. You know what I mean? It's only if I need to watch something. I'm just I'm not in it. And I won't, because we've come out of COVID, right? And we've come out into a war, all right? And it's I will not allow the fear. Now, I'm praying for Ukraine. I'm praying for these people, and I take the time out to do that. I will not let the fear of that war into my mind. Yeah. Social media will do that. The news will do that. People will do that. And if you come into agreement with them and you're like, oh, what's going on? Oh, yeah, you're gone. You're like a rabbit going down.
Yeah,
your peace is gone. And it's you can't control it, you can't fix it, but you can pray for it. So that's where I am in my mind. It's now you say a little prayer now and it's done. It's the hard part is trying to come out of COVID and just try and live normally again. And for everyone, it's just going to be a struggle to, I'm not saying it was easy to go into lockdown, but it sure as hell hasn't been easy coming out of it. We're not actually out. You know what I mean? We've come out to the atmosphere and the energy that Ukraine and all these things, and it's so bloody sad, So that's why I say your family, what's important is in your home.
Yeah.
It's
My
just,
dad always said that. My father always said,
yeah,
I remember him always saying it. And then when I started having kids, he says, the most important thing is what's behind your hall door. And I
yeah,
used to go, and now I swear to God, like, you know,
yeah,
even my partner to say, like, behind your hall door, Leslie, because I'm
yeah,
always I'm the type of person that I want to go out fixing everybody and
yeah,
helping people like yourself, you know.
yeah,
And I want to do the good for everybody. And then I get behind the door and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, no wonder I am exhausted.
yeah.
You
Well, that's it. Yeah, slowing it down, you
know?
know.
And I think I love the way you said, like, you know, this is your little time now. You're not cooking, you're ordering your food. And I
Yeah,
think it's being good to you time
yeah,
now, you know.
yeah. I don't think we need to be doing that. I think we grew up with mothers that always cooked and ironed,
Um,
washed and ironed everything. Like my ma used to iron tea towels. Like, come
yeah,
on.
guys,
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
no, that's not going to be me. Like, you know, it's just like,
I
no,
don't
you
want to
know.
spend me Sundays with Ireland beside
Yeah,
me. You know what I mean? Like, and it's
yeah,
just, and it's mad because Jesus, it's always going to be like that. I've 5 fucking kids, but you know, I don't do that. But I find myself on a Sunday, I'm bleeding stripping beds and I'm
yeah,
sewing uniforms, and there's me whole day gone.
yeah,
And I'm exhausted come Monday, they're going to school. And you know, it was only yesterday I had the conversation with himself. I said, Kieran, look, I'm slowing down.
yeah,
I'm gonna start looking after myself and not running around after the kids so much and just giving me that
yeah.
little bit of just a little bit of time, you know.
Yeah, I know. And I think as well it's knowing what you can do and just what you can't. You
Yeah,
know, I mean if them beds ain't going to be made on Sunday night, they'll be done Monday. It's
exactly.
okay. It's
Exactly.
okay, do you know, and I think, you know, recovery has taught me many things, you know, and I've really kept the principle of like, you know, keep it simple. You know, just keep it simple. You know, if it's too much and it's all going on in your head, just slow it down a little bit. You know, for me to slow me, I had to turn into what you call CSI Miami. Remember that used to be on the telly, crime
Yeah,
scene investigation. That's me with my mind. I
really.
just learned to literally look for the evidence to support what I was thinking because not all of it was true.
Okay.
So just slow it down. It's just like, no, 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 there's a story happening in my mind. I can see it all. There's a movie happening, but it's not
Playing
there.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let it play out. It's not real. Pause that. I have that remote control there. So I've learned to do that. You know, and don't get me wrong, I do get anxiety and I do get those things, and my body's changing. I'm 47 now, well, this June, and my body is changing. And
40's the new 30.
oh, well, no, definitely it is. I love
You're
it.
in your 40s.
Yeah. I wish to God, right? I wish I had known, you know, with recovery in my life when I was in my 20s, that this was liberating. If I'd have known this,
Yeah,
if someone had written this down for me and said, Jess, when you get to that age, life is going to be beautiful. I'm
yeah.
telling you now, I would have ran harder for it back then. Do you know what I mean? I telling you, I feel incredible
That is
on the
so
inside.
amazing for
Know,
you to
like
be able to
literally
say that.
incredible, you know. And I just think as you get older, you know that old saying, you're like a fine wine and you age like a fine
Yeah,
wine.
yeah,
Now I turn it around, like, because I don't drink, you know.
yeah.
I can't drink. I
I know,
can't
I'm
drink
the same. I'm exactly the
successfully.
same.
So I always say I'm like a fine can of 7 Up.
Yeah, I just
No,
gets there. I was like, yeah. Look, I mean, I love how you're kind of, after all that, you're just at peace with yourself.
yeah,
You know how to manage yourself, and I
yeah,
think it takes an awful lot of stuff that has gone on with you and happened with you to kind of realize that it's just brilliant.
yeah.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant to get,
I
to
I
still be
read
young.
Yeah, listen to this, right? This
Yeah,
is exactly what you're talking about. It says here, right, in this little book, I was reading it today, pure bookworm, I'm gone, right? It
yeah.
says, yeah, it says, who would you be, right? And how would you feel? And what would you do if you'd never been hurt, right? If you'd never been hurt, right? Who would you be? How would you feel? And what would you do if you'd never been hurt? And then it says, if nobody else existed or had ever shared their opinion about you, who would we be? Like, I read that today and I said to myself, because all of a sudden when you read it, you think back on all the quotes and you're thinking,
that's what I did just back there. Like, yeah.
But yeah, you're the best version of yourself today because of the pain and because of the hurt and because of the opinions of other people on your life. And because of those people, you say, no, not anymore. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do the right thing. Do you know? So for me, it's like, thank God for pain. Thank God for her, for hurt and hardships and stuff. Because
I think it would be an absolute nightmare in life if you never experienced any of that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? You'd be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah. No, I thank God for them. Honest to God, for relationships that ended, for friendships that ended, all those things just make you.
Yeah, they do. And it's true as the saying goes, it happens for a reason. Like, it does.
Yeah.
It does happen for a reason, good or bad. Like.
Yeah, no, definitely, 100%.
So what's going forward now for you, right? Tell us what.
Yeah.
Since obviously your phone blew up.
Yeah.
So Jessica is coming down the road. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, so I got this lovely opportunity. It's kind of still up in the air at the minute. So I had a lady see the Tommy Tiernan show, but she's a film producer and she's from the UK. So she flew in to Dublin yesterday to do an interview with me to do a movie. So yeah, I'm excited. It was funny because I'm like sitting there and I'm talking about my story, and obviously she'd heard it, but obviously she got more out of me, and she's sitting there like, who on earth are you? Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, by the grace of God, love, but she said to me, and she said, look, I said, so you want me to tell me story and someone is going to act it out? And she says, no, you are. So yeah, I was like, Jamie, here we go now.
Oh my God. So this was like a whole new thing to you, because obviously you've never did anything like this before.
Never. No,
it's going to be deadly. Like, I mean, like, so many doors have opened up, not just on on a level where you're telling your story, but personally as well.
Yeah.
Like, to do these things that you mightn't be comfortable with, but you're stepping outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just going to do it. Like as I say, like even doing the Tommy Tiernan show and the one before that, because I was nominated for a frontline worker for style counselling, and I was so vulnerable going through that, and I was going through my weight loss journey at the time. So when I started, I had weight on, and then through it, I had lost the weight, but yeah, I seen the transition and I seen the change, and I was proud of myself, and I was like, go you. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, you don't always have someone patting you on the back, you know what I mean? But I think when you become your own cheerleader and you're like, you can do this and you can achieve anything, and it's like, your core beliefs, you tap back into those core beliefs. And, from when you were a kid, when your father would say you were the best in this, you just connect back with all that stuff. And you're saying, like, I'm going to do it. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what the outcome looks like, but I'm not letting fear in the way, because fear is not real.
No.
It's only real when you stay in it.
It's a bit of a state of mind, isn't it?
Fear. You let go and just let God and just trust and believe for new things. And I mean, coming out of COVID, I definitely didn't see any of these things happening. But who am I not to share hope about recovery? Who am I not to, like, why would I hold that back? Somebody needs to hear it, somebody out there, because I was that person. I was that person that needed someone to speak life, to speak hope. Do you know what I mean? And if I can do that for anyone, I will. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, Yeah, it's an honor to do these things. I mean, this movie, it will go back about, it's not going to, I won't do anything that will glamorize drugs, because I just wouldn't be a part of anything like that.
Yeah.
And because it didn't, at the beginning it was all experimental, taking ecstasy, but they definitely want to explore those pieces in the 90s, the culture, the rave scene, the dance scene, the love that we all had for one another, the expression of music, the dance. I mean, when you think of a rave tune, all of a sudden you start thinking, you're gone, your facial expressions, and you're going into it straight away, no matter your age. So we're bringing that back, lads.
And it's unbelievable, because Jesus, we were all there, like we were all there, and we all have that story. But like, again, there's so many things, and I think Ireland as a nation and as a culture, when it comes to stuff like that, we never, everything is a secret. Like, if you have had any sort of addiction in the past or issues, we seem to all, oh no, keep that quiet, especially in families. My family we'd be quite outspoken, but there are an awful lot of families with anything, even the smallest little secret to the most biggest one, it's always the thing. Always, oh no, don't say that. Jesus, if your auntie finds out, or somebody finds out, the neighbor down the road, that's the bloody way we've always been. And to be able to express yourself in the way you did it on Tommy Tiernan, even here now, and even in that movie, that's going to help so many people. And so many people have said to me, since I put up the post of you last week coming on my show, and people have seen it on Tommy Tiernan, they're coming up to me in the street going, I was like that. That's what I did it back in the day. Like, that's what we did in the bloody temple and in the bloody, in the Ormond and everything. That's what everybody did. And everybody was dreaming off nightclubs they had been to in town to me last week. And I'm going, like, and it's just mad. It's just crazy. But I love the fact that we're opening up conversation about it.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, I mean, keeping it and normalizing it to the best that we can. I mean, that's, the 90s was part of who we are. That's how we grew up, and it's like, that music at that time, for me, it kept me alive. Like, I mean, even when I go out jogging, I put that music on now today, because I just feel like on fire, like I'm running, down the road, and just all the music's going to your head, and you're thinking of all the times. And it doesn't be a trigger for me now. And the sad part, that for some people it can be, when they're in recovery, they can't listen to music like that, because it's a trigger and it sets them back. But for me, on a personal level, it doesn't take me there. And I'm a Christian, and people would say, don't listen to that music, that'll take you to a bad place. And I'm kind of like, it doesn't. Don't worry about me, I'm okay. Like, there's a thing on Instagram that I follow. It's what's it called? 90s classics, or Hooked on Classics.
Oh, really?
It's brilliant. You have to add him. He only puts on a little mix, But like, I love going on to that, because the songs that I would have forgot about, and music, and it brings me back to that place of that culture and where we were. It's like, when I think of that, it's like, it was powerful. And I mean to say that in a way of, like, the experimental stage of that was an incredible part in my life. Yet I didn't realize that, I was going to get dependent, and I was going to end up on heroin, and I was going to end up, but that little part over there was pretty sacred. You know what I mean? It's like,
there was a different side to, there was that, and then there was drugs after that. But in the moment, it is amazing. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's mad. Jessica, I have to say, like, it's amazing. Like, I'd talk to you all day, I'd listen to you all day, and I'd probably be the first one, if that film does come out, I will probably be the first one. I hope I get to go to the premiere, do I?
We get you some popcorn as well.
No, but just to have more of, I think to have more of Jessica out in the public domain to help other people. Not just because I know you do it at a local level, but more of a wider audience, you know.
Yeah.
Because, definitely, like, you know, it would help so many people.
Well, you're saying that it was what's coming to me mind now is that there is a lot of like stuff like this, but I suppose it's more over in Liverpool. There's a friend of mine over there, and he does testimonies, and he talks to, say, lads that have come out of treatment, and you know, they're called Testimonies with Terry, and they're on YouTube. So you can just go in, and what I just said, you know, you put it in and you will hear people. And I'm going to tell you, is you're going to be very surprised at who you're going to see, because you're going to go, I know them. I remember them from Ballyferma. I remember him from Tala. I remember him from Clondalkin, because that's who they are. And they're living over there, over in treatment. So this is why I'm saying it's so important to share your hope, to share your faith, to share your testimony, because some people, yes, they're not brave enough to do it. And then it's like, I'm at this place in my life. My kids, my son's 29, my daughter's 27. They're doing their own thing. And I'm just at a place where it's just little me. And it's just like, I can express myself in every way possible. Nobody's telling me no. It's like, I can only tell me no. And my boundaries are my boundaries. And that's as far as I'll go with it, you know. And again, like Sharon, like, I don't want to glorify any kind of drug, but because of those drugs, I am who I am today.
But you have to kind of speak about it to a certain extent in order for people to understand how far you've come.
Yeah.
Are your kids really proud of you after the Tommy Tiernan?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Yeah, like, I think everybody's
my little mammy.
I know. I think everybody is just like, still, like, my mind is still blown, because it.
Oh,
like,
my God, it have to be.
As much as you all only seen it last week, to be fair, like, that was recorded the week before. And it's very live. It's very live. Like, Tommy meets you the minute he meets you. That's it. Like, it's exactly what it says on the tin. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, obviously it's recorded and then it goes live, because they've their seasons to get through. But I had like pains in me neck and all that Saturday. I was like, because I knew I was going live, and I stayed in the
you had already experienced it the week before, so you're living it again this week.
I know. I was like, oh, get this over with. So when it was done and it went out, you know,
you're looking at your Instagram followers going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
When you cringe when you see yourself on the telly and you hear your own voice, you know, because I got my teeth done last year, and I have a lisp, you know.
Oh, look at this, I know.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm getting all technical there, but it's like, when you hear yourself on the telly, you're like, oh God, what did I do that for? You know, and you're kind of like, but then I sat there, and I have to say now, after like, and it was aired and all the messages that were coming through, and the battery, as I say, died, but I sat with myself, and I had to sit with myself, because the battery in the phone died. I couldn't touch anything. I could nothing to escape from.
There's no
I sat there and I just said, you know something, God, you're so good, you're so faithful, you're so good in my life. Look what you've done. And not because it's me on the TV, but it's your grace, your mercy has allowed me speak about addiction and how I've come through it. You know, so if anything I wanted to do was definitely bring glory to him, you know, because he's everything in my life, you know. So it's like, for me as a Christian, it's like, you know, that's one of the things I wanted to hold true to that came true. And I was delighted, because they do a 40-minute interview, and I think they cut it to 20. So yeah, so I was so glad with what came out.
What the final edit was. And I think everybody has, and sure, look at the results from what came out. Fantastic. And I have to say, like, I have to cut this, because people will be like, oh my God, but it was an absolute pleasure talking
Thank you.
I talked to you all day, and I just the best of luck. and I'll be checking in with you every week, and
Will do.
everybody who's watching your Instagram and your Facebook page, and keep everybody updated, because
Yeah,
they're
I
an
will.
inspiration to people who need the
Yeah.
recovery, you know. And listen, thanks so much, Jessica. You're just the
Yeah.
best. You're just
Thanks for having me.
the best. Take care of yourself now.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye. Wow, guys, that was Jessica Wade, and oh my God, she's incredible. She's an incredible, incredible woman, and I really hope that there are people out there that have watched her that would have been in a similar situation to what she was, and really take note of everything she has said, and just start looking after themselves, because and even for us and people in general, you know, kind of check in with yourself. I think that's the best advice you could ever be given. You know, check in with yourself every so often, because it's something that we don't do often enough, I suppose. I hope you liked my first guest. It was an absolute pleasure having her. I'm so happy. I'm really, really so happy to have had her. And my next guest next week, I am looking forward to having as well. Lovely, lovely gentleman. I'm sure you'll all know who he is, especially the Dubs anyway. But listen, thanks for tuning in tonight. And you can catch my podcast on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and subscribe to the channel, because the more subscribers, the better, as you know how everything works. And yeah, look, it's been a great chat, and I'm so happy with tonight's podcast. So good night and God bless, and I'll see you all next week. Take care now. Bye.